What's up, guys? Welcome to day 4 of Creating 2019. And today I am super excited to jam with someone that I have tremendous respect for. She is seen as the celebrity therapist coach, and I love when therapists are also taking on the avenues of coaching, because I think for me therapy really touches on the past and coaching is all about the future. So when I see someone combining these two, I'm like, yes, we are up to something here. Terri Cole has created so much magic in this world. She is truly one of those women that are devoted to this cause from their heart. She is someone that is all about teaching women how to love themselves and how elevating our love is the key to having it all. And I'm excited to bring her on board and introduce you to her. She is truly amazing and real and raw, and I love when people are authentic from the heart. Let me bring her on. Go. Yay!
Woohoo! Hi, I'm trying to get it together. All right, how we doing?
Doing amazing. You're actually the first one that I got like that on.
Because we know what we're doing, sister. That's what I'm talking about.
That's right. I was introducing you about how I have such tremendous respect for you, and I met you through one of my previous coaches who I love dearly, Jocelyn Herman. She's a landmark trader, and you came along. She introduced me to you, and we got on a call. And I just want to share this with people because sometimes when people get to that level, they forget who they are. And when I talked with you, it was so authentic, it was so raw, it was so pure, and I got your heart. I got your heart. You didn't need to get on a call with me, but you did. And you didn't need to share with me, and you did. And it was so beautiful. And from that point, I was like, oh no, this is my sister.
Totally.
So I would love to hear from you, my love. Introduce yourself, let people know who you are, what you do, and what you're about.
All right. Well, I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I used to be a talent agent many years ago. And I became a psychotherapist probably 20-something years ago because I wanted to really add value in a different way. And I just felt like, making Naomi Campbell richer than she was probably not the best way to do it because that was the part of the business that I was in. And so what I'm really lit up about is helping women find love within themselves, really transform relationships to ourselves. Because I find that the women in my crew are very successful and ambitious, and yet it's almost like self-love and self-care seems to be at the bottom of that list somehow, And in order to create vibrant love in your life that you want to have, you have to first have it within yourself. And I feel like there's this whole thing about love that it's sort of done backwards, where it's like how to find the one or call in the one or whatever that is, And I'm like, but if you're not really right within yourself, it isn't really possible. Because really, to me, calling in the one is basically having an amazing relationship with yourself first, knowing what your values are, treating yourself with kindness, with compassion, with respect, knowing yourself. All of those things set you up to be very successful to attract someone who's really aligned with who you are. And instead of looking for it like, I'm going to look for it in the world, right? Someone's going to give me this thing that I'm looking for. You realize you give it to yourself, and then you become this beacon of light. You become irresistible, and that's not the reason to do it. The reason to do it is falling madly and deeply in love with yourself changes everything else in your life and doesn't put the power outside of you, right? It puts the power inside of you. And if you can't do those things or don't know how to hold yourself in high esteem and treat yourself with kindness, how do we expect other people to do it? Because the reality is that how we treat ourselves is like the bar, right? So we're out there in the world. Everyone is seeing how you talk to yourself, what you put up with, what you don't put up with, what you require, what kind of consideration you even give yourself. Do you rest when you're exhausted, or do you just plow through and keep going until you like drop? Or do you eat when you're hungry? Do you care about your actual internal health, right? And if you don't, then how are we expecting to attract someone else who will? Because it's also not their job to do
Yeah.
that, right? It's our job. So I just feel like my own story, my own experience was that I, had a massive career in entertainment and whatever I was doing, and I really didn't think that that type of real epic love was in the cards for me. And I was like, okay, you know, it's okay if that's this time around. Hold on. Hey babe, are you leaving? All right, so I'll see you later. Sorry. Speaking of which, you could say goodbye. Bye. He's like, not on camera, I won't. Bye. Just text me and we'll talk about dinner. Anyway, and so it isn't like I don't come from a place of like, I think this is the sound weird?
No, the sign is fine.
Okay, the sound is okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
I'm not coming from a place of, I theoretically, I think this might work. You know, I'm coming from a place of 20 years in the trenches with women, high functioning kind of baller women
Right.
who are changing the world. And yet this one space, this one piece is the thing that they're just like, I don't get it. I don't understand.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it. My mom, growing up, would always say, Michelle, you need to love yourself. Michelle, and I'm like, how the fuck do I do that?
You're like, what does that mean? Wait, you guys, hold on. You guys who are on, we can share this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
So hold on. I'm going to see if I can. I don't know if I can.
Yes, and guys, please share it. We're running a contest that whoever shares it the most is going to win a 45-minute session with me. But please share it. Let's spread this message because this is such an important topic.
Yeah, about just raising your love vibe. When you think about what's happening in the world right now, what's been going on for the past few years, and how not loving and how divisive it's been, it's like our job to nurture that within ourselves and to not get caught up in that. But I find that, back to my actual mission, what I'm most interested in is empowering women and men. I mean, my predominant demographic is women, but I have some very evolved and amazing men who follow my stuff too, to create the life that they want. And when you can get this relationship with yourself right, everything else starts to fall into place. Because when we're loving other people from a broken place, yeah, right. It's like a quid pro quo. Is it called, like, I do this and then you do this? The problem with that scenario is that no one, no one else's love, not your mother's, not a partner's, not your friends, that love can never fill the place that
So,
self-love must fill. They're two different parts of life. So it's lovely to have a partner, and it's amazing to have loving friendships and sisters and all the stuff that we have. But what I've noticed in my practice over the many years is that it's as if I work myself to death, if I do all of this for other people, if I'm of service, if I don't if I don't cause any waves, and if I'm a yes person, if I do all these things and I make myself like irreplaceable in the lives of these people, then I won't be alone. Then I will be loved. But what ends up happening is that when you're over giving from a broken place, you attract, the broken pot will always attract that broken lid,
yes.
right? So it's a perfect messed up fit of like, I'm going to kill myself. You're going to be like, thank you. And then before you know it, that person's like, bye, because it's not based on them really knowing you.
Right. And what I'm finding, Terry, is that a lot of people that are not in the practice of showing themselves love, because it's not something that you just think, it's something that you do. You take action on, you pour into you. But I find that when people are not, myself included at times, we're projecting all that shit to people. We're expecting our lovers to fill that cup. We're expecting our friends to fill that cup. And then it becomes a burden on them,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
which causes friction and conflict and all of the above.
Right. But the thing is, what I think when we're doing it, what you don't realize is that this is sometimes why relationships don't work out.
Right.
There's too much pressure. And think about the relationships that you've ended in your own life. And I can think about mine, where if I remember after my last big breakup before I met my husband, I was like, I need someone who has their own massive show. So that when it's the Terri Cole show, they're super psyched to be in the front row, being like, yeah, it's my woman. And then when it's their show, I'm super psyched to be in the front row, being like, yeah, there's my man. And with Vic, because he was older than me, I went through this process of being single, not being able to figure it out in New York, and just dating broken winged guys. And I was, fixing them up and helping them and getting them into therapy. And I was going to help their career and whatever the hell I was doing, over functioning, being a high functioning, crazy codependent, thinking that this was what love was. And after the last one where I was like, you know what, truth, I would rather be alone because I've made a really nice life for myself. I'm successful. I've got money. I love what I'm doing. At that point I was starting to become a psychotherapist. I'd left entertainment. And I just was like, no more unevolved men. No more men with unexamined emotional minds. Like, I can't be that kind of a teacher. I want someone who's on their own evolutionary path and has done some work and has lived a life and has figured some things out. But what I really revealed in this process through therapy was what is what I call now my downloaded love blueprint, which is basically, this gift, we could call it, from our family of origin, of what you see, like what love is, how it's supposed to be, what it's all about. Now, your parents don't have to say to you, hey man, this is how love is, right? Oh, we're kids. We're little sponges. I'm absorbing. So what I saw, right, was my mother, worked at a factory, but both my parents were very poor. Worked at a factory after high school so that she could save up money to be the first person in her family to go to college. So she worked for 2 years at the GE factory. She was also the queen of the GE ball, just saying. Um, she was so gorgeous. And so she gets into school. She's going to school. My dad is already now, because they were high school sweethearts, he's already now 2 years in, right? This is his sophomore, well, he did a year and a half. So it's her freshman year, his sophomore year. And she gets pregnant over Thanksgiving break and has to drop out of college. So the message I got was like, P.S. Marriage will kill your dreams, just so you know.
Right.
So be aware of that. And so then my parents got married in the office of a Methodist church in Schenectady, New York, over winter break. Doesn't that sound awesome? Not at all. I was like, I never had that dream of like, can't wait to be in the back of a church in the office getting married at shotgun. No thanks. So for me, I never had that kind of a dream. And I always thought my mother's covert and overt message to me was, get your education on, girl, make your own money so that love can be a choice and not a need, because she felt very trapped. She had 4 daughters within the space of 6.5 years. Didn't even get her driver's license till me. I was the last daughter. So she didn't mean to, she wanted me to be empowered, right? Her thing was like, do your thing, like do it and make your own money, because that's where I think she felt the most trapped, even though my father wasn't like a terrible person, but they weren't in love. Like, had my mother not, they were like high school sweethearts. How often does that work out, people? Not that much. Sometimes, but not that much. So once in therapy, I had this whole crazy epiphany. Like, it was this liberating epiphany that it didn't really matter what my downloaded love blueprint was, that I could actually rewrite that, very similar to like an architectural blueprint for a house that someone else designed perhaps 100 years ago or 200 years ago, but that I could actually take it and go, you know what? that's not how I want it. I'm going to erase this. I'm going to redraw this. And with the help of a really brilliant therapist, I was able to do that. And within 6 months, I actually met and basically married my husband. I mean, and I never even thought that was going to be for me. So I know that this works. And this is how, for years in the trenches with my clients, I was helping women sort of get out of their own way, because I was like, dude, if I can do it, P.S., anybody can do it, right? Like, I was the last person in the world who I thought would ever be happily married. That's 22 years ago, you know?
Right. This really speaks volume to me, because coming from someone that a home that was very dysfunctional, I saw my stepfather beat my mom extreme to the extreme, and that's what I thought love was. So
Sure.
I went to college, and my first love, like, I totally recreated that. I was very defensive, I was offensive, I was like, and it really wasn't until I started to dive in that I got, wait a minute, I'm creating all of this. This is all me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so powerful for me to really get to that realization and start taking ownership of what I want. So this speaks homes volumes to me, because we are all adopting what we saw at home, and that may not have been effective, and that also may not be what we want, right? So it's so important to really question, okay, what do I want? What does my ideal relationship look and feel like?
Right.
And how is this man? And then, and I know that you do this probably in your work, that it's about us being that match. It's about us being that person that we want.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Well, what would, Dr. Wayne Dyer would say, we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are.
Absolutely.
So when we're playing out, Freud would call this repetition compulsion, basically, that when we're playing out these sort of traumatic, dramatic experiences, that we're recreating them, that we do it, sorry, I have hair in my mouth somehow, that we do it from this place of, well, my take on it, right? So I don't know if that, if Freud would appreciate that, but who cares? He was a misogynist and he's dead now, so it's fine. Is basically, we are seeking a better outcome, right? We are seeking a better outcome, but without new skills, without a deeper understanding of self, we won't have a better outcome. We will continue to recreate, which is why I know many of you watching, listening, that if you have friends who are in terrible, relationships, and they're like, I'm never going to do, they had terrible experiences with their parents, and they go, I'm never going to do that. And then before you know it, they're actually doing that. And they're like, how the fuck did I get here? How did this even happen? And the bottom line is that we have a natural humanistic, the way the mind works, we are compelled to repeat. But basically, it's almost like we're looking for a do-over. So when you're aware of what your trauma is, when you're aware of this downloaded love blueprint, this is when you can go, oh, look, pain in your situation, what you shared, right? Pain and violence and love went like this at a super early age in your mind. And so you're like, oh, look, here's my paradigm for love. So that what I do with people in the process of uncovering is we basically take these two things apart and we create this new paradigm that says that love can be pleasurable. Love can be mutually respectful. Love doesn't have to be playing out these unresolved wounds from childhood. But the bottom line is you have to honor those experiences. So that can look like talking about them, getting into therapy, sharing about them, taking one of my courses, because I do all of this excavating in the work that I do, the Real Love Revolution, Boundary Bootcamp. These are both like signature courses where I've had women from like 25 different countries come in, because here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you're in Egypt or like California. What I'm finding over these years that I've been doing this is that we have the same experiences, because women, our role, right? We are the connectors, the lovers, the bridgers. We're the assuagers. Like, is everything okay? Are you hurt? Let me fix that. Let me help you, you know? And so it's very easy to become codependent. And I changed the term, because for the people who are interested in the work that I do and the women that I've worked with for 20 something years, nobody really identified with like the straight up codependent label, because there's all of this like preconceived shit about it, right? Like there's like a weakness, or it means that you have to be involved with an addict, right? We always see it as like enabling, but that wasn't what I experienced in my own life,
And
right?
there's a buzzword right now in the last few months that has been triggered me. I've been triggered by it, where it's like narcissist, narcissist, everyone and their mother, every influencer talking about narcissist. And I'm like, how is that supporting people to really take full responsibility and take full ownership of their energy if you are just a little bit giving away your power to this narcissist? And I'm not saying
Yeah.
that they may exist or they don't. I'm just saying, how is that serving you, that you as an influencer are making this thing so real and heavy for people to
Yep.
subscribe to?
Well, I have thoughts about that, because my thought about the whole narcissism thing is, first of all, when you think about it, so I'd say maybe 6.5% of the population actually have narcissistic personality disorder. So that's not nobody, but that's also not 80%, right?
Right.
So that's one thing. And I think there's a very important distinction psychotherapy making, which is that someone can have narcissistic tendencies and not have the personality disorder. The
Right.
likelihood of someone changing if they have the personality disorder, and if you want to see if you have it or if someone else has it, all you have to do is Google the DSM-5 online, which is the diagnostic manual that doctors use, and it gives you a whole set of criterion.
What is it again? Let me just
It's
write it down
called,
for
yeah,
people.
it's the initials are the DSM, so it's DSM and then 5, like the Roman numeral 5, which is like a V, right?
Got it.
And if you just even Google diagnostic manual for doctors, it would come up. But you're looking for what do they say is the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder? And they give you, you have to have X number of these symptoms, of these things that are present for longer than a 6-month period of time to fall into that category. So I agree with you that I wouldn't get highly involved with diagnosing the other people in our life.
Especially if you're not a therapist. Let's just leave it at
Yeah.
that.
But awareness, like where I do talk about narcissism, because from being a psychotherapist, where I think that it actually matters, is especially if you had narcissistic parents.
Mm.
So there is deep pain of daughters of narcissistic mothers. I mean, sons as well, but I'm more of an expert at the daughter experience, even though my mother is not a narcissist. Don't worry, Mom, if she's on here, you're not. But it is a very particular experience that makes you incredibly vulnerable to attract a real narcissist. And what does that look like? What does a real narcissist look like in a relationship? Well, what they really do is they get their narcissistic supply, we call it, from other people. And sadly, it's from creating drama. So they first do a thing called love bombing. So they're like, they hold you up on this crazy pedestal. They're like, fly you to Paris if they're loaded. Nobody understands them the way you do. They make you feel super special and like you're the only one. You're the only one who understands me. You're perfect. You're beautiful. Your sex is amazing. Like they do everything so that you're so intoxicated by that experience that it's like that is their superpower, is to love bomb, and it's exactly what it sounds like, you to the point of you being completely weak. You're like, oh my God, I found my person, amazing. And then once they have you and you're screwed, it's kind of like a drug where how they'll talk about people romancing the high. It's like when you've been love bombed by a narcissist and then you realize who they really are, and how they're suddenly now becoming critical of you. You'll remember the first time they go, you're wearing that? I have to say, honestly, that makes you look fat. I wouldn't. Have you gained weight? No, I don't like that. I don't think you should have done, like, suddenly the criticism starts, the pain, and then it becomes a cycle. Now, all narcissistic cycles can be different, where you have some people where the cycle takes a year to play out, where so they're amazing and it's great, and then it gets really bad, and then it's really terrible, and then they're like super abusive and whatever, then you're going to leave, and then they ratchet it back up. No, don't, la la la. And you could just go through that cycle for the rest of your life. Or there's a shorter cycle that can happen. It depends on the person and your experience. If you are someone who has had, and if you look on YouTube, you guys, I've done a bunch of stuff on how daughters of narcissists can basically heal and not just survive, but thrive in life. Because it's like the secret thing. Daughters of narcissists, there's all of this social stuff that tells us, like, if you don't honor your mother, like, you're a piece of shit, right? Like, if, right? Like it doesn't, no one cares what your mother's done. They're like, you only have one. It's your only mother. You're like, yeah. So a lot of what I work with people around and help them do is, if you need to go no contact, if you need to actually limit your contact with anyone in your life who is that toxic, I'm all like, do it. Like, you don't owe, especially someone who has mental illness. I know that that sounds harsh, but the reality is you don't owe someone your life. I have people getting in touch with me. They're like, I've lived my entire life. My mother's 85 and I'm 60. And she's still fucking torturing me. I'm like, bye. Because here's the thing. What doesn't matter is, you could throw yourself under the bus every day. You could sacrifice your entire life. You could give them everything and then some. And it won't be enough, because they are broken. They are dysfunctional. So what they're doing, if it isn't you, it will be someone else that they're getting their narcissistic supply from. And you can look at someone's life and see that they have falling out with everyone. There's always noise in their relationships. There's always like someone, they're always pissed at someone. There's always someone who offended that, like, and listen, there's a lot of mental health issues that will create someone having a very noisy life, that in their relationships, there's always a bunch of noise, like that they can't have that calm experience. But this, having a narcissistic parent and feeling like you have suffered from narcissistic abuse, is something that you really have to heal from, because it leaves such a deep neural pathway and such a deep behavioral indentation that you really have to work to disconnect the fact that what you learn as a child of a narcissist is that your feelings don't matter. That what matters is you being of service to that dysfunctional parent, and that you are the same way in an alcoholic family, right? The kid, it's not about the kid. The kid is like, is it safe? Is it not? Is it okay? Should I be hiding in my room? Should I not? What can I do to placate, to please, to keep it calm, to avoid this person becoming violent or this person attacking me? But what's even more messed up about narcissistic parents is that if you have multiple kids, then there's this process that goes on where one child is the chosen one, so they're the golden child. So that's the one that the parent identifies with as like an extension of themselves. And then you have the scapegoat, who's always screwed. Doesn't matter what the scapegoat does. Everything is their problem. Everything is their fault. They suck. They're awful. And they're always pitting siblings against each other. Now, you would only do that if you had mental health problems, right? Like, if you're a loving, normal parent, you would never. My mother's whole trip in life was like, your sisters or your best friends. Your sisters or it is family. They're your best friends. You don't need to worry about your friend if she's an idiot, because you have your sisters. Like, that's ingrained in it. I think if it's like a healthy family system, you don't say, well, why can't you be more like your sister, right? Because that's mean, right? And that puts a wedge between. But with narcissistic parents that have chosen one thing, it's so much more than that. And the golden child is exhausted because that role isn't free. And the scapegoat is bitter and exhausted because that role just outwardly sucks because you're being criticized all the time. But all of this, let's bring it back to love, right? Because all of these different things that we experience, they all make up what I started this conversation with. They're all parts of your downloaded love blueprint. And so finding a way to get in there and to basically understand what has been informing how you relate to yourself and to love in your life. When you can decode that, then you're in an empowered position to change it.
It's so powerful what you're saying, and thank you for touching on all these different aspects of our blueprint. I can definitely relate to the comparison. My sister and I were always pivoted, but it was strange because I feel like we were both the golden child in our strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, why can't you be like your sister in this way? And then she would
Yep.
tell her, why can't you be like your sister in this way? And I have to tell you, it took years for my sister and I to really heal that relationship because
Yep.
we internalized it and made it personal between her and I. And I'm so grateful that we have moved on and have such a beautiful relationship. But this is everything that you're touching on is so powerful. And I really want us to dive into how self-love is the key to having it all. A
Yep.
lot of people don't understand that everything that is being reflected back to us, like our apartment, our car, our hygiene, our work, the environments, and the relationships, are deeply reflecting back to us how much we love and value who we are. That's what I believe. So let's talk about that because I think this is really a juicy topic to dive into.
Okay, so the first thing I want to say about self-love, though, is that I think that there's a lot of confusion. And it's one of those, it's been a catchphrase in our world of, empowerment and inspiration for years, like just love yourself more. And so what I think is very helpful is really defining what that means. So what does self-love mean? So according to Terri Cole, it basically means treating yourself with consideration, right? Treating yourself like you matter, like how you feel matters. Not more than everyone else, but sure as shit, not less, right? So when we put ourselves in this position of being the ultimate caregiver for others, and some women are very identified with being very self-sacrificing and very selfless, as if that is something that's to be like celebrated. It isn't, because I can tell you, listen, being generous, being authentically generous is one thing. And I think that's great. I love that. I think I'm authentically generous. I mean, people are, it's a good, nice value to have. But that's not the same as being a martyr, right? That's not the same as basically putting everyone else's needs above your own. Because what ends up happening in that situation, if people misunderstand and think that this is a way of being loving, is that you end up, there's only one destination, I like to say, on that train, which is bitter land. That's the only place that's going. Sooner or later, you're going to be like these ungrateful mother effers. Like, I do this for you, I do this for everyone, and nobody gives a shit about me. And you're like,
Yep.
hi, you know why nobody gives a shit about you? Because you don't give a shit about you.
Yes.
And so
Mic drop.
say it again.
Mic drop.
Yeah, but for real, this is what it is. Like, we're teaching people all the time how to treat us and what is okay. And in the way that we treat ourselves, they see this. And so when I talk about self-love, I'm talking about up-leveling the quality of relationship you have with yourself, which also includes being able to draw boundaries with ease and grace, saying no when your heart says no, saying yes when you want to, having enough confidence and courage to let yourself go for something that you want to do because you realize you're not that fragile. Will you be okay if you're disappointed? Yeah, you will. Will you be okay if a relationship doesn't work out? Yeah, you will. But some people live in this fear, this perfectionism that everything has to be just so. And the reality is that isn't life. Life is incredibly messy if you're really living.
If you're
Deep
really
love, right? Deep love is incredibly messy. You got to work shit out. You're constantly negotiating within a relationship of like, how is it going to be? And changing your couple vision, right? Having agreements, agreeing about how we're spending our money, how we're spending our time. You know, how much time do we spend together? All of those things are things that if you have a good relationship to yourself, then you're capable of doing that. And you're not giving from a place that is over giving where you end up being a martyr. So this process, and actually I'm doing this thing that I wanted to tell people about. Can I tell them now?
Well, yes, let's do it. I was going
Because
to
it,
say it to the end, but yes, let's do it.
well, the thing is, it ties it in. And actually, I don't know how much time do we have. Maybe I should wait.
We have about 20 minutes, but no worries.
Okay.
You're good. Let's
Yeah,
do it
yeah.
now.
Okay. Well, part of starting out 2019, I had so many women wanting to make it be their year of epic real love.
Mm.
Now, my theory is that the only path to real love is self-love, right? So self-love is the only path to any other lasting love, right? Because we can't be in it to be like, hey, fix me. Hey, make me okay. Hey, tell me that I'm pretty. Hey, I mean, we can want the person to, but we can't need it because it ends up being like we're using them to create the self-esteem that we have to create for ourselves. So I had so many women, and this is always the time of year where I focus on love, real love revolution season, I call it. So that started in like November. Every week I've been talking about this, every different aspects.
I've taken that course. Loved it.
Why? Thank you, my dear. And so this is sort of the lead up to the course, which starts in February, but I'm doing this beautiful, brand new. It's a 10-day more love meditation experience that starts next Monday, which is the 14th. And basically, every day of those 10 days, you get a brand new, gorgeous guided meditation from me. And each one of the days, we're going to be focusing on one of the top 10 issues that women have. I did a whole survey, like the top 10 issues around self love and romantic love. So I just chose what I saw the most in the past 20 years in the trenches with clients. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make this be. So it's an awareness raising challenge, basically. And then on the last day, I start with these, we're going to be doing live training to basically tie in everything that you learned about yourself over those 10 days into actionable steps that you can take in your life to have 2019 be your year of epic real love. And this is for mostly for women, but if you're in a relationship or not in a relationship, it doesn't matter, because the training, I'm doing one for women in a relationship and one for women who are single looking to attract love in their life. And it's completely free. And then there'll be an opportunity in the live training for people to sign up to actually join the course if they want to. But there's tons of free, amazing value happening before that for people who say, hey, I don't want to, or I can't afford it. So I feel like it's a beautiful place in the middle where, just in good faith, giving lots of hopefully thought-provoking, awareness-raising gems, so that whether you take the course or not, 2019 can be your year of epic real love.
Love it. I'm signing up for that freebie.
All you got to do is go to terricole.com/more
The link is
love.
already in the email. I have the
Right
link
on.
for myself. I strongly suggest everyone that really wants to elevate their self-love, but also as we elevate our self-love, like I said before, we're elevating our entire 3D reality, our world, our physical spaces, our relationships. So it is so important to give yourself this gift. And you've been hearing her for the last 40 minutes. Her voice, I could listen to you all day. It's so soothing and soulful, and I love it. So imagine getting 10 days of meditations by this amazing queen. I mean, come on. And then to top it off, she ends it with a masterclass where you can ask questions
Yes,
and
you
dive
can.
in deeper. So I love it. She is, for me, you're like the queen of over delivery. You give, give, give. And it's so awesome to see people like that, because I'm like that myself. I want to ask you a question before we dive into my last question
Sure.
that I ask all my speakers. What would you say to people that are in toxic relationships or have been single for a very long time? In the last few months, I've come across a lot of people that have been single for 10 years, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a reality for people. And I'm not saying being in a relationship is for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. And I want to honor everyone's choice. But what would you say to those two people that are in a toxic relationship or are completely detached for many years in being in a relationship?
Well, I'd say two different things, but for both people, you have to dial into what is going on for you, because the shift in framework is that life, your life is not happening to you, right? Your life is coming from you,
Mm.
you know? And so when I say this sometimes, people will say, because, I'm a cancer survivor, I've had lots of things happen in my life, and people will be like, well, if it's coming from you, did you give yourself cancer? I'm like, maybe, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I hope not, because I'd like to not do that again. But
Right.
when I say this, I'm not talking about tsunamis and the mystery of the universe being vast. We all have things that happen to us that it's not a blame statement. It's that what you hold most in your mind, the vibration that you hold in your body, your thoughts, your words. Mike Dooley would say, thoughts become things, so choose the good ones, right? This is what makes up your life. And so, and this isn't because Terry Cole said so. This is Buddha said so. Like this is like thousands of years. Ancient wisdom. We know that what you think about and what you think about yourself really matters. And so in both scenarios, you have to look at what is it about staying in a toxic relationship. It's familiar, right? You're comfortable even though it's painful, right? As we said before, pain and love went like this in your young life. So you're like, well, shit, I guess this is how it is. But I hope that from just watching this interview, that you'll really get the concept that it doesn't have to be that way. And just because it was that way for your parents or for somebody, because it was, or you wouldn't be in this situation, that doesn't mean it has to be this way for you. But you have to be willing to change. And you have to be willing to be alone. And you have to be willing to do the work and to dive deep, which is basically all of the stuff that I do in my online courses and in my groups, even though most normal therapists would never do what I do. Right. And of course, I just call it, therapeutically based coaching, right? Because you're
Which
not
is
going to
what
call
I
it,
love about you.
right. But that's what it is.
Based coaching.
Yeah, right. It is, right? The foundation of everything I do is based in the way the mind works and my, vast experience with that. But it isn't therapy, because actual therapy cannot be done in that format, but it is therapeutic. So when I started doing these courses, I didn't know if it would translate at all. I was like, well, the thing I've been doing successfully for decades with someone one-on-one in my office, if I do it in a group with people from all over the world, will people get a similar result? Will something profound change? And I did it in beta, like I tested it in 2015 with 25 women, 50 women, but I had no idea. And people transformed so much, lives changed so much, that I was in disbelief myself. I was like, holy shit. And that is what inspired me to create these signature programs, because once I knew that it worked, and not only did it work, but the group aspect, the actual having this beautiful tribe of like-hearted and like-minded women, where I'm actually teaching them how to be good friends, right? Because there's no advice giving in my groups. Like, I'm the only boss in my group, right? I'm the only therapist. I don't care if you're a therapist. I'm the only therapist here. I'm the only coach. So we don't have a bunch of over-functioning women being like, you know what, I think you should do, Betty. The same exact thing happened to me. No, it didn't, pal. It didn't happen to you. And stop. Keep your eyes on your own paper.
And I've seen you do that, which I love and appreciate, that you've been like a stand, like, no, you're here as a participant to receive.
Yep. And most women, I can't tell you how many women have said, I cried when I read the rules of engagement that I wasn't going to feel responsible for all these other mother effers in here. I cried of relief that I could actually, I'm like, dude, you're in here. And even in my free group, there's 15,000 women in that group right now, the Real Love Revolution Facebook group. Feel free to join if you're not in there, people.
Yes.
But basically, everyone knows the rules of engagement are like, no. Because what ends up happening when we're over-functioning women, which so many of the people who drawn to my work are, because I've been all of my life, you do feel overly responsible for the outcomes, the choices, and the feeling state of the people around you. And it's so automatic that the first thing that women learn in my courses and in my groups is that they don't have to do that, and that it doesn't serve anyone to do it. It doesn't serve the other person because, P.S., you're not responsible for their life. And you know what? You don't know what they should do. You don't.
And this is the place for you to practice that shit. So you stop doing it with people in your life, because
Absolutely.
there's so many people that you go to, your friends, your family, and you share, and they all have a fucking opinion.
Right. Shut up. Just stop. But what you learn also, though, and what I teach is just how you can lovingly say, hey, you know what? I want to tell you something right now, but I want to ask you if you could just listen without giving me advice, because right now I'm not seeking counsel. I really just would love it if you could hold space for me to share this with you, because it'll make me feel better that you know where I'm at. But I don't need you to fix it. Do you think you can listen without fixing?
I love it. I love it. So good. This is so good. Um, I have, so my last question, where I
Sure.
ask all the speakers, what are your top tips for creating an epic year?
Mine probably all start with the thing I'm most, amped about in my life, which is women having self-love. So the number one tip is getting in check with yourself as to, are you having a good relationship with you? Do you treat yourself as well as you treat your best friend or a child that you love? Is your internal voice kind or caustic?
Mm,
Right? Let's get real about, how are we living? Are you working yourself to death because you think that's the only way to be successful? Are you eating? Are you like, do you have a shadow addiction? Meaning, are you, another thing that I made up because it's people in my world, like, wouldn't be like raging alcoholics because they're too successful and too high functioning, but they'd come home, and if you're drinking 3 bigger glasses of wine a night, I could tell you probably have a shadow addiction. Or if you're working out at 5 a.m. every day for 2 hours, that's probably an exercise problem. Like, what are you doing to numb your feelings
mm.
instead of handling your feelings or looking at your feelings or honoring your feelings? Because all of these things will actually get in the way of long-term success, whether it's career, love, friendship, money, you know?
So good. So good. So really creating the awareness of where you are and checking in. Is this what you want? Is this the life that you want to live? Because I
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of people fighting real damn hard to keep that life, like holding it in place. And I'm like, but do you even love it? Are you
Right.
even happy? Are you
And
fulfilled?
also, is it necessary? Because here's the thing, it's almost like that theory, you've heard it, like, you're holding on like, oh, this tight to all things. And then you're like, oh, but I could just actually turn my hand over and go like this, and I would still be holding on to that thing without expending so much friggin' energy. Allowing more, meditating. And the reason why I did it as the 10-day thing as a meditation challenge is because all of the women who are interested in my work need a meditation practice, have been bullshitting themselves that they're going to start one for like 5 fucking years. So, hi, we can feed two birds with one hand of seeds, as my friend Chris Carr would say, by getting your meditation practice on, carving out time for self-care daily while planting these, these are all very therapeutically based meditations. So you're planting questions, and every day there's a daily mindful focus and an affirmation, so that you're really like dialed into you for those 10 days and learning about yourself. That could be enough to change what happens in 2019 for you.
So powerful. So powerful. Any last message for our viewers? And if you're listening on the replay, please hashtag replay. Let us know who you are and where you're coming from. Any last message for our people?
Listen, what you want is possible. So don't dumb down your dreams. Don't make it smaller. Don't think you have to be of service in order to have that happen. It's great to be of service, but what you want in your romantic life, in your work life, your abundance, it is all possible. Focus your attention in, because that's where all the answers are. And even though I don't have your answers, I'm a damn good GPS to get you there.
Yes, you are.
Hmm.
Please follow this epic queen her website. I'm going to put it in the comments, terricole.com. If you haven't registered for the summit, creatingyour2019.com, you'll get daily freebies from all the experts. And Terri Cole's freebie is amazing. 10 days of more love with a masterclass attached to it. Meditations every day sent to your inbox. And I really urge you to connect with her and follow her, because her message is real, it's raw, and it's so needed. This work of really pouring into ourselves is so needed. That's the game changer.
Yes.
And I want to honor you. I want to honor you for your work, for your medicine, for your magic, for your mission, and how you wear it like a boss.
Well, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you for having me. It was so great. I really appreciate what you're doing out here in the world, and I can't wait to see you in the 10-day More Love Meditation Challenge.
I will be there.
Thanks,
All right,
Mama.
guys.
Bye, you guys.